Friends, the time is finally here. The news that we've been wanting from AMD has happened here at Computex. We got the unveiling of Zen 2. We got some interesting news about Navi, but there's a few things that they didn't let us know about today, and we're gonna be talking about all of that in this here video after we thank our sponsors for sending us here to Taipei, Taiwan for Computex. UFD Tech's 2019 Computex coverage is brought to you by the likes of our friends at Wootware, ASRock, BitPhoenix, and AbConcore. You can check all of them out at the links in the video description and check out the dope products that they're gonna be showing off this year. We'll have videos coming up of them soon. So let's start off with what we actually do know, which is some information about Navi. Let's start off with GPUs first. That is that we're gonna get a brand new GPU architecture. Apparently, at least according to Lisa Su, the new GPU architecture was built from the ground up just like Zen was. So it's going to be called RDNA.
A new design for the future. And that's exactly what RDNA is. RDNA is a gaming engine, the architecture that will power the foundation of gaming for the next decade.
So wait,
so we're extremely
this is
excited
brand new
about RDNA.
We obviously don't know a whole lot about it at this point and how much it's going to differ from the previous GPU architecture of GCN, but if it was built from the ground up, that would mean that we would actually get some removal of the bottlenecks of the Vega GPUs, which could only have 64 compute units and always just really never lived up to their potential. So hopefully RDNA with Navi could bring something that's a little bit better. But they're also going to be calling it the RX 5000 series, and in the 5700 range, the RX 5700 is the GPU that they showed off today. This is kind of confirming what we heard from about NVIDIA, where they're trying to trademark numbers such as 3080, 4080, and 5080 so that AMD doesn't get to kind of ruffle their jimmies when it comes to the naming scheme of their GPUs. So their RX 5700, they showed it to be about 10% faster than the RTX 2070, and obviously that's good, but they already have a GPU that's out that's faster than the 2070. It's the Radeon 7. The real things we have to look at are pricing, the performance per watt, as well as just like what are we actually getting from this? There's not a whole lot known, but they did say that they're gonna give us all of those details on June 10th at their live stream as part of E3. So be sure to mark your calendars for that. We will be streaming it just like we did the AMD Computex announcement. So Navi, not a whole lot's known there, but let's talk about Zen 2, which is a lot of hype has been built up around this. And unfortunately, it didn't live up to the hype, but that doesn't mean that there's not some interesting stuff in it, which includes the Ryzen 5 3600 and 3600X, the Ryzen 7 3700X and 3800X, and then the Ryzen 9 3900X. We didn't get a 16 core unveiled, but we did get a 12 core 24 thread monster of a CPU coming in at 105 watts. The 3800X also likewise is looking pretty good. And then the 3700X is supposed to be the value oriented $329 super boostable Ryzen 7 processor that's going to be really good for games. This showed that it was better than the 9700K when it comes to multi-threaded performance, and then comparing the 3800X to the i9-9900K in video games, it was actually shown that the 3800X can actually keep up with Intel. So that's one of the biggest revelations that AMD might have had here, is that in gaming scenarios, what we're gonna get is a CPU that is on par with Intel, but priced much lower. The 3800X is coming in at $399 as opposed to Intel's $530+ 9900K.
And so today, I'm happy to share with you that Zen 2 in the PC workloads actually achieves 15%
there it is.
IPC uplift.
One of the good things though is that 15% IPC improvement would actually get you pretty close to that 5 gigahertz performance that we were looking at, because the Adore TV leak, where we were trying to say that there would be 5 gigahertz, actually saw that the IPC improvement would only be 7%. So having a 15% IPC improvement is double that. Even though we're losing 4 megahertz, we're actually getting the same rough performance out of these new AMD chips. So they're actually looking to be quite good. And then the Ryzen 9 3900X, when compared to Intel's alternative, the 9920X, which costs $1,200, it actually ended up beating it in some CPU-bound performance tests. I believe they tested it in Blender. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see when these things are released. Are they actually that good? But even if it's not as good as the 9920X, it's under half the price. So it really doesn't matter. You're paying for a cheaper product. Either way. And the best part is you don't have to buy a brand new X399 motherboard that's gonna cost you hundreds of dollars. So that's all of the stuff we do know. Zen 2 CPUs look to be really good, not as good as the leaks indicated, priced a little bit higher, but still super competitive. AMD's not charging a price increase for this 15% IPC improvement. The 3700X costs as much as the 2700X. So AMD's still pushing the boundaries of what you can get, which is really good. And then the Ryzen 5 3600s are also kind of in that same ballpark. Navi, we got some information, but more to come later. The things that we don't know, which still need to be revealed. One is that the B550 motherboard still has not been mentioned anywhere. We haven't heard a single peep about it. All we have are X570s being shown off by different motherboard vendors, and it doesn't look like anything towards the mid to low end version of these motherboards has been announced at all, and whether or not they're gonna come out even if they're gonna be released remains to be unseen. That doesn't make any sense. And then also the lower end Ryzen 3 chips. There has been no mention of it. AMD during their keynote didn't mention Ryzen 5. However, in the press releases that subsequently went out to the internet, we saw the core count as well as the pricing for those, but Ryzen 3 is conspicuously not there. This is actually not that much different to the Ryzen 2000 series, where the only Ryzen 3 chip that we got was the 2200G. It could be that AMD is still going to continue that, and if you want a 4-core, 8-thread chip, you're gonna have to buy an APU or potentially the first gen Ryzen 3 1200. But as much as it seems like AMD is trying to push for value, they're actually not giving us much in terms of budget. The cheapest chip that's announced right now is $199, which is still too steep for some people. So AMD keeping tight-lipped about anything that would be considered value-oriented to a lot of consumers. And then going to the other end, the 16-core CPU. Where is that? Because one of the big things that AMD did confirm at their keynote was that there would be 2 chiplets on the CPU. And considering that one of those CPU chiplets has 8 cores, the other one could also have 8 cores. So a 16-core CPU is still very much possible. And considering that it's been showing up in databases for benchmarks in 3D Mark and others, it actually does exist in the wild. And it's been heard from motherboard vendors that they have tested this 16-core chip. So it does look like that exists, but AMD is either not ready to release it yet or is going to be waiting to release it when Intel comes out with their new Comet Lake CPU sometime soon, because the only thing that Intel has announced thus far is the 9900KS, which can overclock to 5 gigahertz on all cores. And by overclock, I mean boost to 5 gigahertz, which is not that much different from the regular 9900K that you would overclock. So Intel's not releasing a whole lot. We're expecting Comet Lake potentially later this year, and then AMD could drop the 16 core to kind of prove their point. Today, the keynote was about performance per watt and delivering a good value system that doesn't draw too much power, whereas a 16 core part would probably have to be in the 135 to 165 watt region, which is against what they were trying to show off today. So it could be that we're gonna get this later on down the line, or potentially the alternative could be that it is just not ready for retail. As much as engineering samples might be out there and they might be doing well, it might not be something that AMD actually wants to ship because they're not getting yields high enough to actually release these. So 16 core CPU, confirmed that it does exist, not by AMD, but by the design of the chiplets, as well as through benchmarks that are out on the internet. It's just not coming out to retail anytime soon. And I didn't mention release dates, but Zen 2 is going to release on July 7th, whereas Navi has an unconfirmed release date in July, at least according to AMD. So that is everything that we know and everything that we do not know from AMD's Computex keynote today. Let me know what's your favorite part. Are you happy about what AMD is bringing to the table? The things that were wrong were obviously core count, pricing, and naming structure. Obviously, some of those things can change at a moment's notice. Charging more because you realize your competition's not coming out with anything is something AMD could have decided to do. Are you happy with the performance? Are you going to be picking up any of the new 3rd gen Ryzen CPUs once they launch on July 7th? Let us know down in the comments down below. But that's it for today's video. Be sure to let me know everything that you want us to cover down below in the comments. Don't forget to check out our sponsors down below. We've got ASRock, we've got AbConcore, we've got BitPhoenix, and we've got the perennial Wootware sponsoring our trip here to Taipei this year. So be sure to hit subscribe, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and we will give you more Computex coverage later on. Stop following me. Bye, everybody. Stop it. No.